Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My voice and my hands are shaky and I'm nervous. It's not my usual fear of public speaking. I'm just incredibly enraged. So please bear with me. Before I speak about Brother Marwan, I want to note that our community this morning is also empty. Another beloved community member, missing Yaqub Ira today with his camera. If I use the words shame and despicable, they would not accurately or comprehensively capture the position we find ourselves in today. As Marwan sits in his 24th day of detention with an extremely critical illness that can lead to sudden cardiac death, the government is playing games with us. DHS filed new charges this morning, the third such charging document issued in this case. To begin with, the government handed Marwan an NTA, a notice to appear, or a charging document in immigration court. At the time, ICE picked him up back on September 22nd. And that notice to appear charged him with overstaying his visa, an improper and inaccurate charge. Subsequently, the government charged him with a new ground, that he was not in possession of a valid visa at the time of his last entry into the country, which was after he had left for Jordan to visit his mom, who was sick, passed away, calling him an arriving alien rather than an applicant for admission. This was a surefire way to trip up the judge in immigration court, as he would probably conclude that he didn't have jurisdiction to determine bond in Marwan's case, as he in fact did last Monday, cutting us off from being able to properly argue that Marwan was never a flight risk nor a danger to the community, and ensuring that he would be freed. Then, less than 10 minutes before the scheduled master calendar hearing today, in its ongoing attempt to detain and deport our beloved Marwan, DHS once again changed course. And this time, they have stated that not only is he an arriving alien, not in possession of a valid visa, but that he made various donations to HLF between 1994 and 2001, that he was listed as one of its volunteers back in 1997, that he was the person in charge of the kids program in 2000, that he was referred to by HLF as a volunteer, and basically that yes, he committed the rhetorical crime of sponsoring an orphan in Palestine. Please note the dates. HLF was designated a terrorist organization in 2001. Please also note that the HLF trial was decried by Human Rights Watch for its legal and ethical implications as one of the most egregious failures of our criminal justice system in modern times. Human Rights Watch condemned the prosecution's use of anonymous and hearsay evidence, arguing that it was constitutionally unsound and undermined the integrity of the trial. Yet the government insists on recycling its 15-year-old lies. Now think of your own favorite charity. Do you like to consider yourself a charitable person and perhaps contribute to the ASPCA, Habitat for Humanity, or what about places like me, Helping Hand, or Islamic Relief USA? And do you get a little bit of joy about yourself when you think you're helping feed a hungry child, or providing clean drinking water, or maybe even a wheelchair to someone whose limbs have been blown off? Imagine you do that today, and in 2027, your viable, legally recognized charitable 501c3 nonprofit is declared a terrorist organization and shuttered. And then the government goes back in time to sweepingly declare that you had engaged in terrorist activity, to wit, by soliciting funds or things of value for a terrorist organization. Or better, that you engaged in terrorist activity by committing acts that you knew or reasonably should have known afforded material support to a terrorist organization. Third time's the charm for the government. And that's the crossroads we find ourselves at today. Decades-old, repurposed allegations haunting Brother Marwan and maligning his good name at the cost of his mental and physical health. He is, in fact, the victim of a terrible oppression and injustice. And there is nothing heavier that weighs on the shoulders of us and his legal team, knowing that we represent an innocent man. If Marwan's case needed to be relegated to immigration court, and the government had wanted to put him in removal proceedings after his first USCIS adjustment of status application denial back in 2014, why didn't it do so? Why did it sit on his application referencing terrorism and come at him in September of 2025? I received these messages from him this morning. I am trying to process. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marium. I'm trying to process what just happened. I trust you will explain to my family what these new charges mean. I know you don't have a magic stick, but after seeing the new charges, please reconsider what we discussed yesterday. Today, the Dallas Morning News spoke to DHS, and they are still saying that the charge is that Marwan overstayed his visa. Smoke and mirrors, fast and loose. I am still wondering if we will in fact recover as a nation from these dishonest blows. When will we rely on the better angels of our nature and reclaim the claim to fame, the promise of liberty and justice for all? What can be said about the man who has done everything by the book, who entered lawfully, who served meaningfully, who cared deeply, under the auspices of attorneys at every turn? He was guided by those who hold degrees in jurisprudence, who go to court in suits and ties with briefcases to argue before men and women in robes. Marwan, who loves this country dearly and has given the better part of 34 years of his life to it. How did he end up in a striped uniform behind barbed wire? How many more procedural casualties due to political crossfire? What joy is there in it for the government to now also be able to say that humanitarian release on medical grounds is no longer an option due to the new charges? I re-emphasize that as for Marwan's specific medical condition, Brugada syndrome is a rare but potentially life-threatening heart condition characterized by abnormal heart rhythms, which can lead to sudden cardiac death. We have very strong grounds to show this. We have congressional support for it. He has been diagnosed, it is well documented, and Marwan has already suffered a prior episode of a cardiac attack. Is this how we treat urgent requests for humanitarian parole? Heap illogical and dishonest arguments centered around terrorism to ensure they are vilified publicly and broken internally. What I can tell you, and I tell the government today, is that people like Marwan are not breakable. They will not break. But this great moral stain on our national conscience, this profound cruelty and injustice, that is enough to break this earth wide open. These new charges are slander at its finest. Rest assured, we are prepared to proceed via other viable legal routes. And we will not stop until we find someone, one person of integrity and conscience, whether in a suit and tie or a robe, to listen to the truth. But we will go scorched earth, go for broke, no holds barred. Come hell or high water, we will fight to vindicate Marwan's honor, reputation, and name. They cannot break him by trying to take that from him. Not in our America, not on our watch, and not for one single day longer.